going through Isaiah, not chapter by chapter, but finding Jesus in Isaiah. Now, today's Let's Make a Deal. You remember the great show, the game show? If you're a game show, Let's Make a Deal. And life is a whole bunch of deals that are being made. A lot of them are good, a lot of them are bad. I've made a lot of bad deals in my life and some good deals in my life. But as you turn to Isaiah 55, we're going to look, we won't get through all 5 of these purposes of how to make this deal and what is the deal, what is it he's said to us. But there are so many impacting scriptures. In Isaiah 54, he reminds the people, verse 17, no weapon formed against you will succeed or will stand. Now, I'm not using my Bible this morning. This is a new Bible, does not belong to me. 2 weeks ago, my great-grandson had a birthday, his first birthday, and his parents gave him this Bible. Then they gave us the Bible and asked Jan and I to make notes in it. I'm going to preach through it, and all of my sermons will be in there. And then they'll turn it over to the junior grandparents, and they're going to keep it a year. And they'll write notes so that when Robert Cash gets older, I think it's a wonderful idea. It's a great tradition. So anyway, we're preaching from Robert Cash's brand new Bible that he's never seen. And the kid's going to be smart, but he can't even read for, several years. So I may keep it a little bit longer. Come, everyone who is thirsty. If you have a King James Bible, what does it say? What's the first word? Ho! You know what hey, everybody, that's all he's saying. Hey, everyone, listen to me. In Isaiah 54, he's reminding them, listen, I know you're in captivity. You've lost everything. In fact, Isaiah 55 is a picture of a nation attempting to hold on to all of the old ideas, traditions, and life that they had, and living in a life in which they're not relevant. Is that not the New Testament world that we're living in today? We're attempting to hold on to a life that is escaping from us into a life that we do not understand. The viral mania of a woman by the name of, not Erica, but Eliza. I kept calling her Erica, but it's Eliza, has gone viral. It started out with TikTok or Instagram, one of them, in which she had this rant about being almost 30 years old and can't pay her bills. And she's working 40 hours a week. She asked this question, how can anyone have any kind of life and work 40 hours a week? Now, most of my life, just like you, we had those in by about Wednesday afternoon. But here's my point. This thing took off crazy. 590,000 people joined in on comments. And then it went to X, or formerly known as Twitter, and it's now over 14 million people are commenting, and it's come down to a social issue. Many of the people are saying, you right-wing Christians, stop hassling her about being lazy. You have created this world in which these kids are having to go to work and work 40 hours a week and find a life in it. Now, see, I'm still mystified by the whole conversation, in which 14 million people have now entered into, and it's now a social thing in which we're looking at ourselves saying, really, do we need to work 40 hours a week? And that's holding on to some sort of idea that's ridiculous, understanding that we're in a culture that if you've got a job and it's 40, 50, whatever it is, first, be grateful and thank God for that job. Second, get in there and do the job that you have been called to do. Work, work, work. And so when we see this, these people are in captivity. They've lost their jobs. They've lost their income. They've lost their homes. They've lost the street they lived on. Everything has changed. And they're still attempting to hold on. And I'm telling you, some of us in this era are attempting to hold on to yesterday's life, and it's not working. We're living in a new culture that is dangerous. Just a few hours down the road yesterday, for over 4 hours, thousands of people screamed, Allah Akbar, closed the Memphis Bridge down on I-40. 650 people per hour go through that bridge. The I-55 bridge was shut down. So you could not leave from Tennessee to get to Arkansas or reverse. Now, in the old days, police would walk out there and they'd arrest everybody. Not one person was arrested. Not one person had to go to jail or pay any kind of a price for that. And they could scream Allah Akbar all day long if they wanted to. We are living in a country that no longer works. It does not work. And all our institutions are falling apart because we do not want to accept the fact of where we are. So this invitation, yeah, you're in captivity. Your whole life has changed. Everything about it has gone. And you're still looking backwards and in a remiss of, I want it like it was yesterday. Well, friend, it's never going to happen. It's not going to be ever again like it was, ever again, for us or for them. So he says, yes, you're in captivity. But Isaiah walks into the middle of this group of folks, and he says, "Ho, hey, everyone, come who is thirsty, come to the water, and you without silver, and come buy and eat. Come buy wine and drink without silver and without cost. Why do you spend silver on what is not food?" 4 times. Come. Why don't you come? Why don't you come? Why don't you come? Why don't you come? That's an invitation. This invitation says, I want you to come, because when you come, everyone who is thirsty can come to the water. And everyone without silver, you can still come, and you can buy, and you can eat. Now that is a paradoxical statement. Bring your silver, if you have it, but when you get here with your silver, it will not do you any good. This is where you find Jesus in Isaiah. Only Jesus could say in John chapter 6, I am the bread of life. In John chapter 4, I am the water of life. If you'll drink of this water, you'll never thirst again. This world is attempting to find a way to buy and receive a peace, to receive harmony. We're doing everything. Yoga is not, and you may be a yogaite, but it is experiencing, as I read in the article, a revival. Now, I've never been vived with yoga, so I've never had a revival of it. But we're standing on our heads. We're doing everything in the world to produce an inside peace when only Jesus Christ can give us that inside peace. And the reason that he can give us this peace, hold on before you get too happy. The only way that he can give you that peace is when you recognize and realize that all of your attempts yourself of creating peace and harmony is an absolute failure. Now, you can have some happy times. Happiness depends upon what's happening. You're happy because things, my wife hasn't been cooking much. I've been on to her lately. I've been praying for her. She just kind of, I've had to become the cook and everything else. But the other day, I've also been going to the store. And I try to abide by the list, but there's a problem with me and list. And there's a problem with me going to the store when I'm hungry. So I bought a quart of buttermilk. She said, why did you buy buttermilk? Because we sure don't drink it. God never intended any human being to have to drink that stuff. My grandpa used to end every day with a big cup of cold buttermilk and cornbread, and put the cornbread down in the buttermilk, and that's how we finished the day. I've never been that hungry. I've never been that thirsty. Anyway, I said, buttermilk pancakes would work good. So she showed me how to do it. We whipped them up. You can't just beat them up. You got to fold it in real easy so that they'll be light and airy. And boy, buttermilk pancakes, you can't beat that. I was happy. Our happiness is dependent on what's happening. And he's going to talk to these folks about being able to receive a joy even when what's happening to you is not joyful. The beautiful song Connie and the guys sang just a moment is the spirit of that. I am going to see praise in the problem. And so he says, hey, everyone, come. And this, no, we're not talking about 8 or 10 people. Hey, y'all come around me like a barker, at the carnival. He's talking about the nation of Israel. Everyone come. Only Jesus Christ can make such an invitation. And he says to them, and this is our first, let's make a deal. First, the potential for healing is there. The potential for healing. Come, everyone who's thirsty. Come to the water. You without silver. Now, there are 5 things that he lists that you can do. First, come, buy, eat, listen, and delight. Those are all active verbs of participation. He said, I want you to come and participate in this. Salvation would not be salvation if you didn't receive it. Salvation would not be salvation if you don't come to a point and recognize, you know what? Without this confession of my sin and the recognition that Jesus Christ is my Lord, then I would have absolutely no reason to have a praise, would I? I wouldn't. And I would not have been here this morning. I'd have slept in and listened to the rain fall on the metal roof. Potential for healing. Let's move just a little bit further into verse 2. Why do you spend silver on what is not food, and your wages on what does not satisfy? Listen to me carefully. That's the listen part. And eat what is good, and you will enjoy the choicest of foods. This has been an unusual year for us. Going back and learning things that I knew in the past that I wanted to forget about eating what is right, doing the things you're supposed to do, and staying away from certain things that you know are unhealthy. But it's not just a thing for people who have a disease. It's for every one of us. Don't you want to be healthy? Sure you do. That's why we need to invent a bacon that is. Amen? The doctor is never going to say, listen, hey, you need to up your bacon dosage just a little bit. One more piece. It's not healthy. You say, but I like it. I know you like it. I like it more than you like it. I love ice cream, but I don't eat ice cream. Why? Because I don't need it. I'm not supposed to. Now, this thing of the potential for healing, it's not just talking about in the food that you eat. It's talking about the soul that is damaged. You're here this morning maybe and your heart hurts. You're beaten. You're beaten down emotionally. You're beaten down mentally. You're beaten down spiritually. You're beaten down in the body. I said in one of the prayer times this morning, in the last 3 days, just the number of texts of people who are going through a disease, or going through problems, or going through heartache, are walking a family member through such distress. I mean, it's everywhere. It's all the time. And I like what one of our men prayed to me. Lord, I just pray for everybody because everybody's going through something. And what an honest prayer that is. We are all going through this stuff. So he says, hey, everybody come here for a minute. I want you to come, and I want you to participate. Now, how do I participate in this healing? Do the right things. Do the right things. You ought to go to bed at a good time. You ought to get up at a good time. You need the rest. You need the sleep. You need to be mentally and spiritually alert at all times. That's healing for the body. Now, when you break a bone, there are certain things you need to do to get that bone healed, to be healed. So there is a potential here in verse 1 and 2 for healing. By his stripes we're healed. I know that. I pray that. I know that first it means the healing of sin. But I also believe that Jesus is still the great physician and he is the healer. He will heal your body. He heals your soul. He heals your mind. And once you live on this earth long enough, young folks, you'll find out that healing may come through heaven. We spend more time trying to pray folks out of heaven than we do trying to pray folks out of hell. It's a natural thing for us to go, for to leave this life and to move to the other. But there is a potential for healing. If you've walked into this room today, body, mind, soul, because we're a trichotomy. We're made up of a body. We're made up of a mind. We're made up of a soul. And it's all connected. You can't break it apart. If your body feels bad, I promise you it's draining on the spirit, is it not? Your attitude changes based on how you feel. And that's why we can run through the drive-thrus. I was in a drive-thru. It was last week in a restaurant, drive-thru restaurant. When I pulled in there, I counted 21 cars in the drive-thru, 21 cars. I went ahead with them. I jumped right in there in the middle with them. I was 22. In 7 minutes later, I was back on the interstate. Wow. And y'all know who I'm talking about now. I think Chick-fil-A ought to be in charge of the transportation of the world. 7 minutes. 22 cars hit that drive-through, and I got my salad and my water and headed on down the road. The potential for healing is with everyone who sits in this seat, if you'll understand that this invitation is a Jesus invitation. Come, everyone who's thirsty. Here's the issue. Here's the problem. I've already drank some water this morning, but we need to drink. We need to drink more and more water. And those of you who are healthy continually tell me, drink more water. You see this big jug that we have here? I'm drinking water. Jan's drinking water. We need to drink more water. But I don't even like water. I don't like water. You got to drink water. We need it. The body's going to, if you're unhealthy, start drinking water. Look what he says. The 3 drinks. Hey, come, get the water. Come by, get the wine. All right, I'm on number 2. That's all right. Sounds good to me. And milk. The 3 drinks that he says. Potential for healing. Milk in the Old Testament was always used as a symbol for abundance. In the land, the 12 spies went over into Canaan. What did they come back with? They said, this is a land flowing with what? Milk and honey. And the grapes of Eshcol. Huge grapes. Healthy. These 3 drinks symbolize health. You say, well, that middle one, that wine, and we can fight over this all day long, which kind of wine it is, whatever. But it wasn't Strawberry Ripple for $1.99 at the gas station, I can tell you that. Hey, are you thirsty? Are you thirsty? There must be something within you that is desiring this invitation so that when it comes, hey, everyone, come. That's you. You are included. I'm included. The world is included. For God so loved not the cosmos world, but the people in it, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth him would not perish but have everlasting life. This is an invitation, but you got to be thirsty. Now, what creates thirst? Exercise. You love that too, don't you? Have you already violated your New Year's resolution of exercise? We've seen probably 3 doctors this week. And you know what every one of them says? It would help you to exercise more. He spent 7 years of his life to get that one little sentence to tell me every time that he sees me. I got it. But there has to be a hunger. There has to be a thirst. There has to be something in there that creates for me a desire. If you have a Bible, lift it up high. If you got a Bible. Amen. That's lovely. Now, you lifting it up high does not create a thirst. You lifting it up high does not create a hunger. But you somehow lifting it high, lifting to bringing it low, to somehow in there that this is speaking to me and that it has weight and that it has bearing and it has direction in my life. There is a potential for healing today. Now, if you're going to get caught off in saying, yeah, healing my body so that I can be more prosperous, you're hung up on a false gospel. That's not what he is saying. This healing is to glorify God. And even in the New Testament where the invitation was come and the disciples looked at Jesus and they said, Lord, who sinned, his mama or his daddy, that this boy would be in such a mess? Jesus answered that by saying, listen, howbeit, no one has sinned, but this is for the glory of God. Everything that you're going through, physically, mentally, emotionally, is to bring glory to the Father. So if everything you're going through, you're kicking all the way and stomping and pouting about what's not right, what's bad, or you're getting on the web and you're telling everybody, how can you have a life if you got to work 40 hours a week? How can I pay rent? How am I going to have a life at all? If you're missing the whole point that whatever you are, whoever you are, and whatever you're going through is to bring honor and glory to Jesus Christ. Pastor Benny mentioned Tim Lee will be here. Tim Lee has no legs. Has no legs. Many veterans have gone through much, but this guy has gone through so much. And yet, he travels the globe. He's traveled more than 6 million miles in airplanes telling people about the saving invitation of Jesus Christ to heal your body, and yet he has no legs. Wow. Whatever you're going through, I am telling you, there's a potential to heal body, mind, and spirit. So come, everyone. Why do you spend silver on what is not food? That's a drive-through. We spend money on things that do not satisfy. Did you know that many fast food restaurants, the French fries, before they are flash frozen, are dipped in a deep batter of both sugar, salt, and fries, and it is flash frozen into that fry? That's why if you eat a McDonald's French fry, you can't just eat one McDonald's French fry. You got to have the whole thing. They just get there's a substance in there that creates instant appetite. We fill our foods full of sodium. Why? Because it creates appetite. That's why we drink the gulp drinks when we get a burger. The bigger because we got to have more to satisfy. We need to be healthy. You say this is not a fun sermon at all, but it could have been worse. One of our guys said, "Preacher, don't preach on tithing." The day I hadn't been able to work in 2 months, and I had a 4-week series I wanted to do on tithing, but I'm going to set it aside. So it could be worse. But being healthy, seriously, you're going to talk about that? There is a potential to be healthy. You want to be healthy or not? Then you got to have a thirst. You want to know what this word is saying? You got to have a thirst. We're attempting to get people better off spiritually without the word. We've written every kind of devotional humanly known while the Bible sits there with dust on it. This is the best devotional you will ever find. See, I don't understand it. Well, obey what you understand. You'll be all right. Oh, come, everyone. There is potential for healing. Why do you spend silver on what is not food and your wages on what does not satisfy? The thing about flesh, all of you have a flesh. Do you agree with me? You have a flesh. Point to someone that has a bad flesh. Okay, Miss Jeannie does. Okay. We all have a flesh. What does that mean? What does that mean? Well, of course we all have a body, but that's not what the New Testament writers are saying, and it's not what this invitation is. The flesh is that part of our nature that is self. It's all about self. Oh, I'm not that way, Brother Bob. Who's the first person you look at in a group photo? It's you. Everything's about you. We are a selfie generation. One of my children said that the other day, I said, I got to get rid of some of these photos. There's over 1,000. I have over 5,000 pics. She buys storage to be able to use the phone because of over 5,000 pictures. That's a lot of pics. Flesh is self. And we all desire the flesh. That's why if I were to preach, and I won't, if I were to preach 1 hour, half of you would be squirming and finding some sort of agonizing way to get through it. Why is it? Because we've lost our hunger. We've lost our thirst for the word. Next week is the Super Bowl. And I am so glad that Taylor Swift made it. People have asked, what do you think about the Taylor? I do not care. If she's there or not there, I do not care. But the world does care, and the world's going to be there, and they're going to sit there for literally all day long. The Super Bowl will be 3.5, maybe 4 hours all day long. Why? There's an appetite. There's a thirst for it. I think the Super Bowl halftime is the greatest waste of 1/2 hour that a human being could endure. Have they ever heard of George Strait? Now, the Super Bowl is not my problem. I don't really care. I do remember when it first became an issue and we had Trick the Devil night. That's when the church would meet early, when we had training union, so that we could get to the Super Bowl, and we called it Trick the Devil. These are Christians now leading this. So I'm saying there's an appetite for it. When we go to a ball game, we don't sit at a ball game and say, oh my Lord, how much longer? Well, some of them we do, but how much longer is this going to go on? No, we're up on our feet. We're throwing our popcorn. We're kicking and stomping. We're screaming at referees. We're engaged in it to the end. And so don't fake it. Please don't fake it. But to be engaged spiritually means that you're taking the invitation, the Jesus invite of Isaiah, saying, you know what? I need to be thirstier for what this word can do for me, not during this hour, but thirsty for what the word can do in my life this week. Well, there's a potential for healing. Verse 3, pay attention and come to me. Listen. Now, what's he said so far? Pay attention, listen, and come to me so that you will live. I will make a permanent covenant with you. The promise of help. There is a promise of help. Not just the potential for healing, but there's always a promise of help. Where are they? Not at home. Where are they? In captivity. How long is this going on? 70 plus years. They're not going to make it back to their job, the business they had. And he says, listen, there's a promise of help in this new life. If you're discouraged today, if you feel weakened today, spiritually, if you feel weakened physically, or if you're weakened emotionally about your life right now, there is a promise of help. I love it when people, and I swear this church may be the most loving and kind church I've ever been a part of. Jan's got 100 cards piled up on one of the tables there of you sweet folks. We had to turn food down last week. We had to turn pot roast, potatoes, and pie down. I had to turn it down because we were already lined up with lasagna, meatloaf, da-da-da. Unbelievable. And we appreciate every bit of it. We really do. You're kind and you're loving. You really are. But this thing of the promise of help, have you ever told someone that you would help them and then you didn't? It lets everyone down. It lets the person down that you were going to help. Our families let us down. We're going to help. We didn't. And then we make excuses for why we couldn't. This promise of help comes. He says, listen. He says, pay attention. You need to know your surroundings. Jan and I say it to each other every day. Every time I pull out anywhere, you need to be aware of your surroundings all the time. Spiritually, we need to be aware of our surroundings. Did you know that there are people in your makeup that don't have your best interest at heart? There are people who may laugh with you, but when your back is turned or their back is turned, they are not for you. We all have that. The worst thing about betrayal is through the picture of Judas and Jesus. The worst thing about betrayal is turning around and finding who's got the knife. I'm going to help you, Jesus says. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to first pay attention, and I want you to second, listen. God is speaking through these difficult times. But what are you hearing? What are you hearing? What are you responding to? God is speaking now to a nation with this beautiful invitation. Come, you don't need your silver. You can't buy it anyway. You cannot afford this peace that only Jesus can give. It won't do any good for how much silver you have. Everyone on the talk radio keeps saying, buy gold, buy gold. Have you ever gone out and bought a pound of gold? If that's going to save us, it will hedge against inflation. I understand that. But I'm telling you, the promise of help from Jesus is not to hedge our investments with gold or with silver, but is a trust in Him that He's going to help you. The same God who helped you before you got into this mess is the same God who will lead you through this if you will do two things. Pay attention and then learn something. Pay attention and learn something. Most difficult thing for me when I was becoming an Eagle Scout was the knots. I'm still horrible at knots. I froze up that night. I can still remember the Eagle Border Review. I failed the knots. There's just too many knots, and they all look the same. I study knots all the time, and about the only thing I can do is tie my shoes. I'm bad at knots. I always hate it when we were hauling hay and kids. You got to bring that down, tie the bell off, and mine always locked, and you couldn't get it back undone. But now this tying of the knot and this promise of help, and it's going to come to you if you'll just listen, pay attention, and learn. Hardest thing a teacher has to do is get a child's attention. Hardest thing God has to do is get our attention. And He usually has our attention through a series of events that go into our life. Now, the potential for help is always there. Back many, many years ago, when I was a principal of a Christian school, we had what we called the Learning Center. We stopped having open classrooms, and we built a sort of a cave for every student that the teacher would walk around to every student. Flag would go up. That teacher would give individual attention. Now, when the teacher looks over that student and there's a problem, the student wants the answer. The teacher is not there to give the answer. The teacher is there to what? Show you how to work through so that you come with an answer. My job today is to not fix your problems. I can't fix your problem. My job is to listen to you and get you to the person who can fix the problem. But in order to do that, you're going to have to pay attention. And you're going to have to learn something. If you've ever tried to break a little filly or a little colt, first thing you've got to do is get their attention. It's not going to be fun. You're going to have to tie them up. And I don't know for some, oh, you can't do that to the child. You're the same person who says that to the human child. Oh, you can't do that to that child. Let her express herself. You ever teach Sunday school one time in your life? Just let the child express themselves. When a father or a mother has to discipline a child, it should be a twofold thing. One, I'm going to get your attention with this, and two, we're going to learn something. We're going to learn something through this process. When I was a principal of a school, I hated corporal correction more than anything because I knew it was going to take an hour of my time. Oh, I wanted to just grab the paddle and go to paddling. We had one boy there. He had Down syndrome. He knew he'd messed up. He was a sweet, sweet boy. He walked into my office. He knew what was coming. He knew it just as well. His father was the senior pastor. I took that board and I laid it on my desk. And old David is now 62 years old. David looked at me and he put his head on the desk and he said, "Oh, my Lord." That Down syndrome boy knew exactly what was about to transpire. And I couldn't do it. I didn't do it, and I should have done it. But I couldn't do it. But you see, the whole deal is, if you don't pay attention, there's going to be something that's going to get your attention. Did you know that the book of Romans chapter 13 says that officer that stops you on the side of the road, he is there for you. He is a servant of God. For you. All authority is for you. I don't like authority, do you? I don't like anybody to tell me anything. Do you? Do you enjoy being told this is what you have to do? Of course not. Why? You have a flesh. And that flesh says, "Oh, I'm listening to everything you say, and I'm making it like this," but inside I'm going, Nobody tells me what to do. Well, just continue to express yourself. It's all right. There's no right. There's no wrong. There's just you and what you think. That's the culture today that we are handing to boys and girls. Yeah, there's an invitation here, and that invitation is a potential for healing, but there's a promise of help that comes if you'll do two things. One, you better start paying attention to what's going on around you. Do you see the devil at work today? Well, of course you see the devil at work today. But do you see God Almighty at work today? Do you see him working in your life, even when it doesn't seem to be obvious? Oh, I wish it was on the mountaintop all the time. I wish there was praise on the mountain. I wish I could stay on the mountaintop all the time. But the truth of the matter is, we learn in the valleys. We pay attention in the valley. God on the mountain is still God in the valley. When things go wrong, he'll make them right. Amen? The God of the good time is the God of the bad time. The God of the day is the God of the night. Listen. And the only way you can listen is to shut up. What is an argument? Two people, or two groups of people. Yesterday on the Memphis Bridge, thousands of people. Thousands screaming, "Allah Akbar." Many of them were paid to be there. Many of them were positioned from other states to come and shut that thing. And others screaming, "We have a right to go on this bridge." What is an argument? An argument is two strong-willed people, or two groups of strong-willed people that are going to have their way and intend to have their way. I've counseled people before and just want to stop right in the middle of my counsel and say, "Would you please look at me? You're not hearing what I'm saying." Their face is showing hearing, but they're saying, "As soon as I get out of here, I'm going to do what I want to do." A man asked me to see his brother. Where was his brother? His brother was in jail. So would you please go see my brother? Now, I hate those kinds of moments. I hate to be in jail. But I go. And I speak a word. I'm looking through the bar. I'm talking to the brother. And the brother who had sent me to the other brother, when he told me to, tears were streaming down his face. See my brother. But the picture behind the bars where he was standing there behind the bars and like this. One, you're dumb. You are in there. I'm going to walk out in a minute. And he told me in about 40 seconds that I could hit the road, didn't matter to him. I said, that's great. I'm going to pray for you. Walked out the door, did what Jesus said to do, wiped my feet. God bless you. Hope you enjoy jail. And he did for about a year. So you've got to pay attention and listen. Yeah, the potential for healing is there and the promise of help is coming if you will pay attention and learn something. You don't have to go learn Hebrew. You don't have to do that. You don't have to go learn Greek, the original language of the Bible. But what you do have to do is listen to what God is speaking to you through his word. Now, one more, and then we'll pick up next week. Verse 4, since I have made him a witness to the prophets, to the people, a leader and a commander, we're talking about King David, so you will summon a nation you do not know, and the nations who do not know you will run to you. For the Lord your God, even the Holy One of Israel, has glorified you. Seek the Lord while he may be found. In other words, there's 70 years of captivity. You need to seek the Lord while you're here. You are going to go back to this life. 42,000 of them did go back and start rebuilding Jerusalem. There's going to be a point by which you get to return. But he says, until then, you seek the Lord while it may be found. Call upon him while he is near. God's near me when I'm in a mess? Oh, yes. Holy Spirit is near me through all of this trial and tribulation and bad stuff. Yes, he is. If you listen, pay attention, and learn. Someone asked me yesterday in a text, what's wrong with the Razorbacks? Like I am authority. I played basketball. I coached basketball, but I'm no basketball authority. But you ask, I'll throw my 2 cents worth in the ring. When you put 5 people on the floor who are individual stars in their own right, who are not at Arkansas because they loved everything about Hogville, they were there because they can get a little more SIL money, and you put them on the floor, and you start that, ooh, pigs. So they're talking about and they're thinking about the dollars in their mind, not what's on that floor and the history of it and why you wear a uniform. When I put on my basketball uniform in high school, I was proud of it, whether I started or not. And that's what's wrong with the Hogs. That's what's wrong with college, period. How much are you going to pay me to play for you? And he is saying here, listen, you need to seek the Lord while he may be found. You need to listen to him while he is near, because you're going through some stuff. You need to learn from it. You know, it's one thing to go through bad stuff. It's even worse to go through bad stuff and not learn anything. That's even worse. So we come to this portion. Verse 8, for my thoughts are not your thoughts. My ways are not your ways. This is the Lord's declaration. For as heaven is higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than yours. We will never think like God. We can never understand the nature and the character of God because we are sinners. We are only redeemed because of the blood of Jesus Christ. We can only have a relationship with God the Father because of what the finished work of Christ has done in our life. And if you're here this morning and you say, I'm not getting all this junk, what do I need to do? You need to confess your sin to Jesus Christ and turn to him and allow all these problems to be his problems working out through you. That's why Paul said in Philippians 4, work out your own salvation. He wasn't talking about figuring out your salvation. He was talking about every step that you go through is applied to the salvation you've already been given. God can't give you anything more today than he's already given you. You're filled with the Holy Spirit. How much more filled can you be? He has given you a relationship. How much more can he have? And so here is the third deal. We see the picture of God's sovereignty. My ways are not your ways. My thoughts are not your thoughts. Anytime we sit down with anybody else and ask what's going on, we have different ideas because we see everything differently, right? We see everything differently. Because of that, we need to understand God's sovereignty over us. What does sovereignty mean? The word sovereign meaning owner of. Owner, ruler, boss. That's what Lord means. Jesus Christ is Lord. Is he? Really? And see, the place that you find yourself in, you find yourself in this place of confusion, anger, disappointment, discontentment, all of these things that are true in every life. Wait a minute. God is sovereign over every inch of that, every part of it. My ways are not your ways. One of the reasons that new young preachers say don't spend a lot of time in the Old Testament is because of the judgment of God. We don't want to hear about the judgment of God. And most of the scriptures that talk about gender, that talk about sexual sins, are Old Testament chapters that say this is what happens when you do this. Well, let's leave that alone. Only problem was the New Testament went right ahead with that same judgment. But we do not want to hear judgment. We do not want to hear sin. We just want to hear that we're doing better and that we're all good. I love you. I love you as a church. But it's a church full of sinners who have been redeemed by the blood of Christ. And if you're here as a sinner and not been redeemed, I still love you. God still loves you. The invitation is still there. Everyone that comes. But it's time that you apply that to your life. Is God really sovereign over your life? Or are you still in the point of saying, I'll do what I want to do? I'll go where I want to go. Nobody tells me what to do. I still remember my little brother. He's 6 years younger than I am. When he graduated from high school, I was already married and gone. When he graduated from high school, and he had a hard road to hoe physically, but he and Mom would call me, you need to talk to your brother. I'd get on the phone, talk to Steve. And Steve had that attitude. Steve was a Golden Gloves boxer. And for his weight, which I could pick him up and throw him 15 yards. But he was a little fella. But in his weight, he was a banty rooster now, let me tell you. He thought he could fight his way out of anything. Last phone call I made to him, Steve, you got to get yourself straightened up. And I love what he said, such wisdom. I reminded him about it the other night when he called me to check on Jan. And I said, hey, you remember what you told me on the phone? Nobody's going to tell me what to do anymore. I'm joining the Marine Corps. You dumb. I took him to Little Rock, Arkansas to get on the airplane. I just looked at you, so dumb. He didn't learn anything until he learned something. What I'm saying here today is God really sovereign over your life, or are you still in that nobody tells me what to do? And man, one day, years and years ago, the invitation time, I may have been exceptionally strong about it. Anyway, he walked out the door and he met me at the back, put that finger in my chest, said, nobody tells me I got to pray. Nobody. I said, that's fine. I walked into a hospital emergency room. There was blood on the floor. The superintendent of our schools, his son and his two boys had been in a very bad wreck. He called me. He went to a Methodist church, but he called me. He said, please get there. He met me at the door, and I went straight in. There were doctors working, throwing things out. His two sons were both being worked on over here. It was just a bloody mess. I'll never forget that moment as long as I live. And I called his name, and I said, I want to pray for you. And he looked me right in the eye, and he said, no thanks. Go on over there to my boys and pray for them if you want to. In my entire life and ministry, no one has ever said that to me except that one man. No thanks. Go over there if you want to. His wife heard that. She's covered in blood, standing there crying, watching her husband bleeding out, watching both of her teenage sons at the same time. She hears him say, no thanks. I'm telling you, you will come to a day, the entire world will come to a day by which they will bend that knee and they will bow that head and they will proclaim Jesus Christ as Lord. I don't care who you are or how bad you think you are. There's going to come a day where every knee shall bow and every tongue confess Jesus Christ is Lord of our life. God is sovereign. So listen to me. Whatever you're going through, and in just in a moment, let's stand together. In just a moment, I'm going to say, if you're bothered by the mind and the body and the spirit, go ahead and stand with me. There's a potential for healing here. But don't get so obsessed with the physical part of healing that you misunderstand that by his stripes we are healed in our sin. And you can certainly pray to the God who heals, Yahweh, Jehovah Yahweh, to be healed, body, mind, and soul. You have a right to do that. You certainly have a right. But there's an invitation to every one of us today. Every one of us. And that invitation is this. There's potential in this body, your body, for healing. Do you want that? There's a potential if you can come to a place where there's a help that's going to be promised to you. If you listen, be quiet, and learn something. You know, the loudest guy in the room is often the guy who's trying to hide the most. Trying to bring everybody to a point that I know everything, I hear everything, and I can answer every question that you have. But I ask you once again, is he really sovereign over your life? Is he really being sovereign? Lord, owner, ruler, boss over your pocketbook, your bank account, your family, your grandchildren? When our little Mila Grace, she's 5 months old now, and she's topped over 12 pounds. But she spent the first 40 days and nights in the hospital, and we only got to see her a couple of times. But I'd pray over that ventilator, pray, and if I could, I would have made a deal with God. Lord, if you'll let this baby live, you ever do that? Lord, if you'll just do this, I'll do that. You ever do that? I certainly can't be the only one in this room ready to make a deal with God. Lord, if you'll let this little baby grow up. And yesterday we got a picture of her with a big smile, a great big bow. She still has no hair. And I'm thinking about the deal I made with God over that ventilator. See, let's make a deal. But here's the deal. Yeah, there is a potential for healing. But you better listen. You better learn why you're in this mess. Because if you don't, mess may get worse. And that's why this world, I understand. I never dreamed we'd have this many people here today. Beautiful, crowded up, packed up place in a rainy, cold February morning. Hearing the Word of God, listening to it, that just blesses my heart. But here's the deal. Deep inside, is He really Lord of your life today? Deep inside, are the hurts so deep that you're a little bit bitter? You're a little bit angry with everybody. You're a little short with everybody because things aren't just working right. I am telling you, there's a potential for help today, and there's a promise coming to you that if you listen and learn, He's going to help you through that situation. This altar is open for those of us today who are beaten down spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, that need the healing touch of God, or that need to confess Jesus Christ as their Lord today, or who need to take the situation that you're in, wrap it all up and bring it down here and put it on this altar and just say, oh, Father, here it is. Now, here's the trick. When you get up from that altar, you're going to have to be able to leave that right there. Can you do that this morning? Our heads are bowed, our eyes are closed.